Welcome to this week's podcast, where we will talk about riots in the Netherlands, about new COVID restrictions, a natural disaster in Canada, and new data about drug use in the United States. 3 people are treated in hospital with injuries after protesting in the Dutch city of Rotterdam against the reintroduction of COVID restrictions. Protesters were seriously injured when the police fired shots during a demonstration on Saturday. A protest started in Rotterdam on Friday evening and ended in what the city's mayor described as an orgy of violence, as the crowd torched cars, set off fireworks and threw rocks at police, who then fired warning shots and direct shots at protesters and used water cannons as well. 51 people had been arrested in Rotterdam. About half of them are under 18 years old. Demonstrations were also held in other Dutch cities on Saturday, starting out peacefully but turning violent during the night. In The Hague, rioters were also throwing stones at police and using fireworks, and similar scenes erupted in the town of Urk. Football matches held behind closed doors because of COVID regulations were also disrupted when supporters broke into stadiums. A new 3-week partial lockdown in the Netherlands came into effect a week ago, after record numbers of new COVID infections. Bars and restaurants can only be open until 8, and crowds are banned at sport events. Other European countries have also been facing protests after introducing new restrictions and lockdowns in the face of rising COVID case numbers. Tens of thousands of people protested in Vienna, Austria, after the announcement about a new national lockdown and government plans to make vaccines compulsory from February 2022. Croatia's capital, Zagreb, saw thousands of people marching as well to show their anger at mandatory vaccinations for public sector workers. In Italy, thousands of people gathered in Rome to protest the Green Pass being required at workplaces, venues, and on public transport. A state of emergency has been declared in the Canadian province of British Columbia after a heavy rainfall washed out road and rail links. The region has been struggling with unusually heavy rain since September, caused by a so-called atmospheric river, a narrow corridor of concentrated moisture in the atmosphere that transports water from tropical areas towards the poles. A storm that started last Sunday brought a month's worth of rain in 2 days, cutting off the area from the rest of the country and blocking access to some towns entirely. About 14,000 people are under evacuation orders in the western province, and the Canadian Army is being deployed to help thousands of stranded residents. 4 bodies have been found so far of people who died in the landslides caused by the rainfall. The natural disaster has been attributed to the effects of climate change. The extent to which climate change is responsible for these heavy rainfalls is yet unclear. However, scientists say increased sea surface temperatures can cause extreme weather conditions such as hurricanes, cyclones, and typhoons, and intense rainfall. More than 100,000 people in the US have died of drug overdoses in 1 year during the pandemic, according to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Overdose deaths in the United States have been on the rise exponentially over the last several years, but now they rose by more than 28% in the 12 months ending this past April. This is the highest yearly death toll from drugs ever recorded in the country. During this period, more people died from using drugs than from guns, car crashes, and the flu. Experts explain the rise with the psychological toll of the pandemic and more synthetic opioids like fentanyl in the supply. According to experts, this data also shows that more people were using drugs alone, which increases the risk of an overdose death. That's it for today's podcast. Thank you for listening.